o'clock, and I'm calling this meeting of the Town of Lunenburg Heritage Advisory Committee to order. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Our first order of business is a motion to approve the agenda as it stands. May I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Bertels, seconded by Fawn Creaser. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. Next up, we have the motion to approve the minutes of the March 2nd meeting. May I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Bertels, seconded by Fawn Creaser. Are there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Contrary minded, motion minutes are carried. There is no business arising from the minutes, so we will move right on to new business. And item 6A is the 2022 Heritage Recognition Awards, which we'll turn to the Heritage Manager to give us an update on that.
Thank you very much. I provided a report to the committee with regards to the Heritage Recognition Awards. In keeping with the program, the town advertised for nominations and the nomination period closed on March 28th. Staff has identified 2 projects and 1 nomination was received. So staff is recommending 142 Blue Nose Drive, 213 Montague Street, and a nomination was received for 94 Townsend Street. For those that are unfamiliar with these awards, it is intended to recognize the fine work of property owners, craftsmen, and developers in enhancing Lunenburg as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and to heighten public awareness of Lunenburg's rich built history. The owners of the nominations approved by council will be invited to the town's 269th birthday ceremony on June 7th, where they'll be presented with their heritage recognition certificates. This year, just to let the committee know, we're planning on organizing a joint birthday and grand opening of the Lunenburg Academy Heritage Classroom on June 7th on the grounds of the Lunenburg Academy. And I'd like to welcome you all there for that ceremony. In light of the above, I recommend that council approves the following nominations, and there's a motion there for your consideration and recommendation to council. If there's any questions, I'm here to provide what I can.
Thank you, Arthur. Are there, should we handle the motion first or deal with the questions? What do you think to that?
Well, generally you can have questions, just not debate prior to a motion.
Okay, very good. So first of all, are there any questions for Arthur regarding the Heritage Recognition Awards and the properties that are listed? Okay, hearing, oh, sorry, I'll.
This isn't a question, but I just comment. I think the
If I could ask you to keep the.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. That great big thing. Yes, sorry. No, I've just got a comment that I think the 213 Montague Street is especially interesting because it presumably has brought back bays which were there originally and somebody had cut off at some point. Is that right? Right. Which just seemed to me that was especially worthy, not to run down either of the other 2, but.
Well, absolutely, an excellent point, and that's what we're looking for. So that's what these awards are to celebrate. So with oh yes, I'm so fun.
Sorry, Fawn, your mic.
I know it's just a renovator in me, but I just feel like I would be remiss if I just didn't acknowledge the effort that it takes to do those projects. And certainly commend them for also the effort in design and time it takes to source things out. I just, I think that ongoing should just be recognized, and to say how worthy it is too. I know what it takes to win that award, so good for them. Congratulate them all.
All right. Are there any other questions regarding the awards? Hearing none, there is a draft motion to recommend this to council. Would it be anyone's pleasure to move that? Councillor Bertle, seconded by Oliver Osmond. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. The next item is the Heritage Conservation District Plan and Bylaw Review, which will be summarized by the Heritage Manager. So I will pass it over to him.
Thank you, Chair. This is just to provide the committee with an update with regards to the progress that we're making with regards to the Heritage Conservation District Plan and Bylaw Review. On April 20th, the Brighter Communities did a presentation to the steering team to review this attached report that you have before you. So far, the inventory of the built form within the Heritage Conservation District and the architectural controlled areas has been completed. And they're currently working on the background report. So to help facilitate the background report, one of the criteria that the province is looking for is actually a rationale for the district and the district boundaries as part of the background study. So they provided two options for the committee's consideration. The committee felt that it was appropriate to go ahead with their recommended option, which is option number 1 in the report, which removes the Tannery Road architectural control area and add a portion of the Dufferin Street architectural control area into the boundary of the Heritage Conservation District as part of a ceremonial entranceway into the town, and helps develop that storyline between the old Charles Morris 1753 plan of Old Town and how it transferred over into Newtown with and trying to link that story together. I refer to, if Heather, can you bring up the last page of that report? It shows the boundaries of the Heritage, there we go, of the proposed new Heritage Conservation District. And that is the proposal to be included in the background study that will eventually be submitted to the province for their review. And it will allow them to continue with their work with regards to developing the Heritage Conservation District Plan and Bylaw itself. So I just wanted to bring the committee up to speed with regards to the work. And if you have any questions, I'll try to do my best to answer them.
Thank you. And questions for Arthur, starting with Oliver.
I'm puzzled about the logic of removing Tannery Road, which contains a number of very, of houses sort of from the first, 3-4 decades of the 19th century, contains the only 2 remaining barns that are attached to their houses there. And in terms of sort of the effect on visitors to the town, Tannery Road is a most visited area. I speak as one who can't get into his house except along it. People come to Tannery Road because they can see across the harbour to Old Town. But I think that there's a strong case, I would say, for continuing to try and keep, the historical preservation of a number of early houses there. Many of which are still in a reasonably original state, several of which are regrettably much altered because there wasn't controls when they did the much altering.
If I may, Chair, I love Tannery Road myself. I think it's gorgeous, the buildings, and especially the old barns that are along there. As you know, as part of this committee, Oliver, you were part of the committee back when we were doing the review with staff. A lot of property owners were quite interested in having their barns actually protected, because we only protect 2 accessory buildings in the Heritage Conservation District currently. So we came out with a list, I believe, of 5 additional accessory buildings that we were going to protect along there. Upon review, Brothers Community with the CCP felt it was very important to try to tell that story of the Charles Moore's plan, the grid, why UNESCO is a World Heritage Site. And they felt that the Tannery Road doesn't really follow that story. So it would be best, in their opinion, to either leave it off for now as part of this Heritage Conservation District. We could always consider individually designating those properties along Tannery Road and those barns as well, under the Heritage Property Act as individually municipal designated heritage properties. Council also has the ability to create more than one district. So it might be better to try to suit that into another Heritage Conservation District if council wanted to go that route, or encourage those property owners to actually designate as municipal heritage properties. But to tell that story, that UNESCO story, they felt it was more appropriate to actually leave it out at this time.
I'm unconvinced. I mean, because, okay, yes, the telling of the UNESCO story is important, but surely the real purpose of having an area in which there are some special controls is to preserve the historically significant buildings. And it has to be said, or at least I would say, that there are more historically significant buildings on Tannery Road than there are on that section of Dufferin Street. I mean, I'm not arguing against including Dufferin Street, but I don't see the case for saying Dufferin Street is more important in this regard than Tannery Road is.
Yes, Marissa.
Just not to diminish any of Ollie's points, I just think it might be better if you wait for the consultants to come back with the background study and to be able to defend their approach. I don't think we should put Arthur in the position of defending an approach tonight that he didn't come up with.
Okay.
Certainly, and thank you. Fawn. Yeah,
Thank you. Listening to what Matt just said, how does our feedback get, because obviously they want feedback when you read through. They want to know what we think about sort of their recommendations, correct?
I think I should leave it for to answer, but the steering team is sorry. The steering team, it's almost like 2 committees with 2 different roles. So this evening, my point was just to bring in this information just to try to keep the committee up to date with what was going on with the review. The steering team itself is responsible to making sure that quality control and the items that are issued in the RFP are actually satisfied as part of that process. Council as a whole is also abreast and gets copies of the minutes and meetings of both of these committees. So if there's concerns, I guess it'd be best to lay them for when we get into the public information sessions. And that way, Brighter Community be here as well to address any questions or comments you might have.
So we would have a chance to
your input through the public participation meeting criteria as well as the public hearing. It's not uncommon for members of the HAC to actually attend council as part of the public hearing process to go through it, that as well. But a lot of their input is at the public participation stage with this committee at the HAC.
I really have some thoughts about it. I just don't want to miss that opportunity to express, I don't know, just a little bit like Oliver, but different. I guess I come at it from more of a reality point of view, a practicality, reality point of view. And I'm with them on getting rid of the architectural control area. But then it's looking at each area, Dufferin, Falkland, Tannery Road, and Creighton, and just how each is affected, because I think they're each affected in a different way for different reasons. And I think it all can be taken care of quite easily. I just think that they, sometimes when you do these things, you know, it's like throw the baby with the bathwater. So it's like from one extreme to another extreme, when actually there are some things, intermediary things that actually would help solve some of it. So anyway, as long as we have that chance to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Fawn. I have Natalie and then Mayor Isser.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I don't know if it's a more of a commentary. It was along the same lines as what Fawn was saying about curiosity as to when there was going to be a possibility of providing some feedback. And in the sharing of tonight's meeting with the Heritage Society, one board member came back and wanted to know who was on the steering committee. She had attempted to find a list and had difficulties doing that. So I don't, maybe someone could clarify that, like who this, if it's a CPP.
If I can, that information should be available through the town's website, but I sit on the committee.
Okay.
Of course, Arthur is part of it. We have a few citizen representatives, two council, Councillor Sanford is the chair, and Deputy Mayor Mosier also sit on that as the council representatives, along with myself. And is it 4 citizen appointments? Yes.
Yes, but I don't know if they're all appointed. Was it 5? One position is unfilled because of a resignation.
Yes.
So there were a number of citizen experts and citizen representatives that were appointed to the steering team for the overall Project Lunenburg Comprehensive Plan and the review of the MPS LUB and subdivision bylaw. And that continued when we looked to a consultant to redo the heritage bylaw in an effort to align with the comprehensive plan. So, but I think it's important to note what Arthur said, that the role of that committee is principally in oversight related to project management. So related to RFPs, related to, you know, timelines, project management, that kind of thing. They're not particularly overseeing substance. The only people who have substantive control of this project really are the consultants. That's why they've been hired. And in terms of aligning with community vision, there was a great deal of engagement that was done on heritage and other aspects related to the comprehensive plan. And that's available to all the consultants to see sort of where the community head is at related to heritage management. And the original RFP, Arthur, I think had sort of, I always look at it as 4 kind of things that were in that original RFP, which was, you know, minimizing the burden on citizens while maximizing conservation, aligning with the CCP, MPS, LUB, and subdivision bylaw, following international and national charters and guidelines. And I think sort of one implicit was having one regulatory framework. What we kept the architectural, we would have gotten rid of, I think, through the MPS and LUB process, the architectural control zones, except that would have left a regulatory gap because we didn't do the Heritage Conservation District Plan and bylaws, part of the CCP municipal planning strategy, land use bylaw process. So what would happen from a procedural perspective with this project substantively is under the, and Arthur, feel free to correct me anytime I'm wrong here. The background study would be brought forward for public participation to this committee. No, the background study doesn't. It goes to council, right? Or could go to this committee and then council.
There is no requirement for the background study to actually come to the HAC. It's a document the council produces and then forwards that on to the province for their review. It's basically called like the first step in order to undertake a heritage conservation district. I see this committee's job is basically to actually review the plan and bylaw and establish a public participation meeting program and hold that meeting to provide comments from the citizens as well as from the committee to council at that time before they pass first reading.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You just, I'm noticing the mics don't turn on and off. And that was similar to what we did with the MPS and the LUB with respect to the planning committee. Like they dictated this, they didn't dictate, but the substantive packages were brought forward to them when they were in plan and bylaw form. And they reviewed them at that level through the public participation process, which is a legal requirement, and then forwarded them to council. They could have forwarded them with sort of suggested amendments, but I don't think there were any suggested amendments that came out of that particular process. Right. And then council could accept or reject the suggested amendments because ultimately the authority for this lies with council as the democratically elected representatives. That sound about right to you?
That sounds correct. Yes. Very well said.
Thank you, Arthur and Natalie, does that answer your question?
Complicated stuff, isn't it?
Okay, thank you. As I have Mayor Visser next and then, oh, okay, that's okay. So thank you, Fawn.
Sorry, Arthur, to make you keep defining things. There was a little section there when you were going through the process where you said it comes to us for review before it goes to public hearing.
The process is that this committee will hold a public participation meeting prior to the public hearing. Public hearing is at council, but council has to approve first reading first to advertise for a public hearing. But our most important step is to actually, once we have the plan and bylaw in hand, to review it and then hold a public information session or a public participation meeting. Both are determined to be the same. Some people just call it a PIM and other people call it a public participation meeting. But that's with the Heritage Advisory Committee. So that would be the most important role that this committee holds and operates is through that public participation meeting, which is held prior to first reading of council. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah, Mayor Visser.
Sorry, I was just going to say that one of the things we did with the planning committee and with council when we passed the MPS and LUB, Arthur, is there's a sort of flow chart that shows some of the process. And I don't know if you have one for heritage bylaw adoption, but I find those kinds of things very helpful as a diagram. So it shows you all the different steps and where they come in. It might be helpful to circulate something to that effect to the committee.
Thank you, Oliver.
I've got a, oh, I don't know. Okay. There's a matter about which I'm completely confused, and I was completely confused at our last meeting, but it seemed rather difficult to ask this question in the presence of the consultants. We went through a long process on this committee, quite a number of us still there, working through a proposed new heritage bylaw. And a lot of the issues that seem now to be redebated were debated at great length there. what is the relationship, if any, between the present process and all that we did there? I mean, has that just been set aside and we're starting again, or?
Yeah, I will pass that over to the heritage manager to speak
Yeah.
to, but yeah.
We did a lot of great work, I feel, as a committee, under the Heritage Conservation District Plan and Bylaw Review. I can tell you that consultants have all that information, and it is my hope that it will be incorporated to some degree in their final draft of their Heritage Conservation District Plan and Bylaw. But we're pretty much back to square one with them to initiate this new plan and bylaw so that it is consistent and compatible with their comprehensive community plan. And I think that was the number one intent of council, to refer it back through Brighter's community, or it was referred back to a consultant to undertake.
Yeah. Which was the same thing that had happened with the original one that was done within this committee. It was passed on to the Upland group originally. We were first going to do it, and then they were unable to. So now it's been passed through. So it is a complicated and convoluted thing. But to Arthur's point, they do have all of that information, and hopefully they'll be able to glean something from it, if something or much of it, hopefully. But they do have it, and that the ball will be in their court, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. Mayor Risser.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to speak to the procedural things as related to Ollie's question, which was, yeah, this is essentially starting from scratch with the information provided. Back when we were originally doing the comprehensive plan, I had argued and did not carry the day that we should fold the Heritage Conservation District Plan and bylaw process into that process so that it was all done at once. And so the work that had been undertaken in the last term related to the committee level undertaking didn't have the comprehensive plan to align with. So now we've gone out for consultants and are bringing that back.
Are there any other questions for the heritage manager about the update of the HCD plan? Okay, there was some excellent discussion tonight on that and a lot of great ideas. So thank you for your input. As for the next meeting date, normally their usual one would be in June. Would that be correct? 2 months from now? Is that correct, Arthur? Or is there something we should meet before that?
I think June is fine.
We usually have 2 months between meeting, or a month between meetings, I should say.
Yeah, I forgot that actual point. On the agenda, I have May 18th, which is just next month. But
do I have a different
I think you're
agenda
right.
than you?
It's supposed to be every second month.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I may have a different agenda or not an updated one. I didn't see the May 18th. Do you feel there's need to meet at that time? The only thing I can think of is the what we dealt with today, the recognition awards and so on in early June, but they've been dealt with, so I don't think there's.
I know the consultants hope to wrap up the background study by the first week of May.
Okay.
So I was thinking that maybe I would just introduce again an update to the committee with regards to the background study on May 18th, if we're able to keep that.
Perhaps, Mr. Chair, we can just leave it to you and the heritage manager to figure that out and alert the rest of us.
Yeah, that would work out fine. If everyone is okay with that, we'll figure that out and notify the committee as soon as we have something in place. So with that, no further business. I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.